I'm here with Dani Filth to talk about the upcoming live album from Cradle of Filth, Trouble, and their double lives out April 28th on Napalm Records. It's always a pleasure to have you on the channel, so I just want to start off by saying thank you for taking the time.
Oh, cool. I don't even know why I'm wearing glasses, so I just wanted to see you better. Thank you.
So 20 years since the last live album, why such a long period of time, and why now?
Well, that's a good question. I guess it was because we've just been very prolific on the writing side of things, and therefore haven't had the opportunity to leave enough of a window to warrant putting out a live record. It's not that we're embarrassed of our live output, it's just that we've always been very busy. I think what album is this? We're now on our 14th. We're working on our 14th album. 14th album. That doesn't include EPs and what have you, and compilations. Incidentally, we're going into the studio in 3 weeks' time to begin recording that. So, yeah, the live album was actually a product of circumstance, I guess. The pandemic put everything back by a year. Existence is Futile, our previous record, should have been released a whole year prior. It was just sitting there really for a year and a couple of months. And that was due to the fact that there was no real point releasing it during the pandemic because we couldn't support it. We couldn't go out and tour it, etc. So Nuclear Blast thought it best to hold it back until we could. So subsequently, that put everything back by a year, including our transition from Nuclear Blast, of which Existence is Futile was the last record for them. And the transition was from them to Napalm Records. And it meant that we'd started writing a new record. Then we had a slight lineup change. So we decided that the two songs that were destined for the new album that were part of the old lineup would see the light of day on this record, and thus we'd start the new record from fresh, which I think was the best decision to make. Also, it gave a kind of spearhead using those two songs as a way to promote, obviously, the new album. And it gives people something new, something to, you know, as a window into Cradle 2022, which it was the point in which it was written and recorded. So anyway, long story short, we had a spare year, I guess, in which our live engineer suggested, well, why don't you put a live record out? I've been recording, you know, the majority of shows from the Cryptoriana World Tour, which was elongated from 3 years to 4 years because we released the Remistress version of Cruelty and the Beast. So we elongated that tour by going out and doing a full set of the Cruelty album in its entirety. So we had a lot of stuff to pick from and a lot of shows too. So we basically just, I'm going to wear these glasses. Makes me look more intelligent, you see. Something has to. So yeah, we handed all these tracks, all these shows, sorry, to our studio engineer, and he swears blind that he looked through them methodically, right? And obviously, he had to choose the songs that we wanted, that we'd played, and we wanted for the live record, and they were based on, you know, not being repeated from the previous one, even albeit 20 years earlier. We still didn't want that to happen, and we wanted a good selection of tracks from our entire back canon. So anything from Principle, Midian, Damnation, right through to Cryptoriana. And we also wanted to put a little bit of the stuff we wanted in there. So I really wanted Bathory, and I know it's a little selfish because that song's so long it takes up the position of probably 2 or 3 songs, but I thought it's my favorite Cradle song, so I really wanted it on there. So like, yes, our studio engineer then sorted through, found the gigs, so he goes, yeah, well, you guys sounded on fire on this one. And he basically just whittled it down. So we went through, chose them, and then he we mixed them because obviously he just had the information from the desk, so it's all flat and without EQ and stuff. So that's how it came into formation. But obviously, after 20 years, we can't just put out a singular disc. It had to be double, and it wouldn't work with the album title either. It wouldn't double on their single lives. Just doesn't sound right.
I was just going to ask you that. I mean, you guys have an incredible discography. How difficult it was. I know you didn't want to include songs that had been in the previous live album, like you said, even it was 20 years ago. But still, there's so much material. How difficult it was to narrow it down to the songs that you felt deserved to be on this record?
Well, like I said, it was dictated by the fact that we couldn't put anything on there that wasn't on those tapes, on those digital masters from the gigs. But it was difficult, yeah, because I think that it took a really long time because we obviously put it to everybody in the band. What songs do you want on there? And then we made a wish list. Then we whittled it down, and we were continuing to whittle it down, even at the mixing stage, because it was like we'd chosen too many. And I know people may argue, well, you decided to put 2 new songs on there, but again, I think that was important because it. Obviously, live is in the past. Their songs have been pre-written. People have heard them before. We wanted something that kind of, like I said, spearheaded the new release. But coming back to the assembly of the album, yeah, it was fucking difficult. As I said, yeah, there was criteria. There was no repeats, fan favorites, and a smorgasbord of songs from throughout our back catalogue. We didn't want to favour new material. We didn't want to favour old material. We wanted stuff so people, whatever you're into of Cradle, people could connect to.
It's easier to, the question I have is it easier to create a live album where you have songs from different shows and you can really pick the ones that you like based on that specific performance on their day versus going on stage knowing that you're recording every single track and that's the recording that's going to go on an album?
Well, obviously, yeah, that does put things into perspective. But as I said, we hadn't planned this. This was just an idea that came into fruition when we had the time to do it. And I'm really pleased we did. Don't get me wrong. It's not an afterthought. We spent a lot of time making it, the best that it could possibly be. But that being said, during the pandemic, we did 2 very big, what do you call them? I forgot the name of these. Now, you play live, but it's all film. Streams, that's it. I was trying desperately of thinking it all day yesterday, what the bloody thing's called. Yeah, we did 2 big live streams, and they were particularly difficult to put together because obviously we were right in the middle of a pandemic, and we had to get a crew, and the whole crew had to hide themselves away. We had director came in from LA and shot 2 videos off the back of it for the new album as well. So he had to quarantine for 12 days. So it was all really difficult. And we brought a lot of production in, lots of lights, fire, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously both of those were all live, all filmed straight away. So both of those may see the light of day at some point, I guess. It was a different lineup. And obviously we're not going to put it out anytime soon because the people that paid for it will be very cross because they're like, we paid for that, why should everybody get it for nothing? But yeah, they were particularly difficult. So I am pleased that we didn't actually film a live record, or you'd probably do that over 2 days like Maiden did. But yeah, obviously it was easier, but like I said, it wasn't planned, so that's our excuse.
In an age where you have live streams, where you have YouTube, where you guys tour every single continent, do you feel like live records these days hold the same meaning and the same impact that they did for our generation?
Well, I don't know if records hold the same meaning for people anymore. It all seems so flippant and easy to discard. And by that, I mean, here's a great example. I bought my daughter, this was a few years ago when she was living at home, I bought her a couple of records of her favourite band, and she was always listening to it. But then when she moved out, and I was helping her move stuff, I was like, these albums haven't even been opened. What the hell? I said, yeah, but Dad, nobody listens to CDs anymore. You know, just get it on Spotify. And yeah, I get that. I get the immediacy, but I think it also dilutes the appreciation. And that's what I'm saying about people that buy records. They buy them and they want to make sure they're good by listening to them. And you play it in the order that the writers want you to hear it in, because otherwise they wouldn't have put it in that order for a start. And I just think there's more appreciation for it. Back in the day, it was also more mysterious and more antagonistic. And when you don't know much about anything, and it's very hard to get hold of the albums. I remember ordering Hell Awaits from a department store here where I live in England, believe it or not. And it took 3 months for it to turn up from America. And when it did, it had a chip out of it, so to be sent back, because half of Hell Awaits was fucked. And then eventually got it. And from me ordering it until it being on my turntable was like 6 months, you know? Not like Amazon now, or, or
overnight
Spotify on entire back catalogue from start to finish. So yeah, I'm old school. I prefer that. And also I think by buying records, it's supporting the genre metal in general. One thing I hate, I had a side project called Devilman, and one of the guitarists in that, literally, I went to his house and went, "Is this it for your CD collection?" He goes, "Yeah, what's wrong with that?" I said, "You've got 4 CDs. He goes, "Yeah, I listen to everything on streaming platforms." And I was like, "But you're a musician. What the fuck?" Spotify paid me. We had 24 million plays last year. And I think I won't disclose, but it was pitiful. It wasn't even enough for a meal. Wow. So, that's what I'm saying. It's the death now, I think, of the music industry. I don't know what legislations can be put into place to try and protect that. It does mean everybody has to go out and play live to kind of counterbalance that scenario. But of course, that means more bands out live, less to go around, more festivals. People can't afford that either. So it's a tricky scenario at the moment. Just know I'm not a fan.
And that brings another problem. I mean, you guys tour a lot. Like I said, every continent, everybody gets to see Cradle of Filth. But there's other issues now with, excessive touring in terms of so many bands touring at the same time post-pandemic, issues with merch cuts. Are you concerned as you release a live album? Are you concerned with the future of live extreme music?
Yeah, well, I've been concerned about the future of music in general since 2008. That's when me and King of Hell, sorry, not King of Hell, what am I on about? Me and him were discussing, and that's we pinpointed 2007, maybe 2008 as the turning point. Before that, people were buying records, people going to concerts, it was a healthy scene. And then after that, we started seeing dwindling returns on everything, mainly due to streaming platforms and, the price of this and that. And I think the world went through some kind of thing, economic decline. Now we've got war. There'll be something else next. another horseman of the apocalypse will appear. Yeah, I am worried about it, obviously, because it's my business to be worried about it, and I'm in it. And subsequently this year, Cradle, I know because we're recording an album, I know we just come back from the Double Trouble Live co-headline tour with Devil Driver. There's a second leg that's happening later in the year, but not until, I don't think till the back end of September. So between now and then, we've just got a handful of festivals, mainly because we're in the studio recording an album, yes, but also because we can't overplay. Next year, new album, like the whole year, we're going to be busy playing live. But you have to be careful because you can't overplay. You can't, saturate the market. and depopularize the band, or some people go out there and they play too much and they're not worth shit after that. And I appreciate the band, fans want to go and see other bands. Of course they do. This is why things like Hellfest have like gone to, put extra days in, because they realize the fact that, there's a demand for live, and people haven't got a lot of money, so they want to see everybody at the same time. We're about to play Sick New World in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, and I still cannot believe that that's all going to happen in one day. The list of bands is enormous.
I don't know how they're going to find room for everybody to have a decent set list.
No, exactly. I know a couple of bands, big bands as well, fucking massive bands, looking at 30-minute sets. But I'm sure they're not going to grumble about that. I think we actually get a 45-minute set, which would be a very short set for us, but better than most.
Cradle has a huge following. Like, I'm Portuguese. Whenever I travel from Toronto to Portugal, I see Cradle of Filth t-shirts everywhere. You guys are massive all around the world. Somehow Portugal, you guys have like this hold on that nation that everybody just loves the band. What do you attribute to this cult-like following that the band has like throughout the entire world?
Something wrong with people? An immense amount of people with terrible taste. I don't know. In respect to Portugal was our first true gig abroad as Cradle of Filth. We played Penafiel way back in, oh my God, 94. And that's where we met a fledgling Moonspell who had just released an EP. Played it with Hypocrisy, and I can't remember who the other band was now. It was so long ago, yeah. And after that, the Portuguese really welcomed us with open arms, and we were playing there a lot, right up until the point that we had to pull a show because the promoter had booked it, and it was the ex-bass player of Moonspell, Ricardo, I think his name was. And he booked it in an old gentleman's club. So when we went in there was loads of old men smoking cigars, playing cribbage. And we were like, okay, so where are we going to set up? Because there's no stage, there's no access for any lights. The lighting guy went in there, plugged one row of lights in, and all the electric went out in the whole block. So we left. We couldn't play. It was impossible. We said, right, we need to go before fans turn up. Otherwise, it's going to look terrible. And then we can regroup and explain the scenario. But in the meantime, there's a radio DJ who I still speak to, but he really fucked up this time, called Antonio Freitas. Him and Ricardo went on the radio and told the Portuguese public the reason Cradle of Filth had turned tail was nothing to do with, because obviously Ricardo was going to lose a lot of money for booking this gig in a venue that evidently was not a venue. He told them that we'd asked for heroin. And after that, this was on national radio. He said that was the reason. We asked for heroin, and because we didn't get it, we decided to leave. And of course, everybody in Portugal was fucking in uproar. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck do they think they are? Blah, blah, blah. And we didn't recover from that accusation for a good, 6-7 years until we went back and, it was ridiculous. Thought I'd just tell you that, but it was a real bugbear on our existence as a band, because people can say a lot of things and shit really does stick when people mention anything like that, But it was absolutely true.
Well, the last time you guys played at Vagos Metal Fest, I know everybody was talking about the performance. Everybody went on that day to see you guys. So whatever happened in the past, the lies that were said, everything has been forgotten. And like I say, I speak to Antonio Freitas. In fact, I've probably got an interview with him coming up quite soon. We got a festival in Portugal this year, in fact, and Vagos was actually our last one. And it was an amazing festival. And my girlfriend at the time, who was Spanish,
came over, and we had a few days in Lisbon. But before that, we went to stay for a day and a night with Fernando. No, actually, his house. He actually paid for a hotel for us, and we stayed in this beautiful little village, and it was amazing. We had a great time. So very much looking forward to going back to Portugal. The reason that's left off a lot of European tours is primarily the expense, because Spain, as you know, is a massive country, and there's only a few gigs you can really do there, ones that warrant taking a tour bus to, and they're so far apart that then get to Portugal and do a show and then come back, you have to take all days off, and it's just not cost effective. So that's there is no reason why we've sort of missed out on Portugal a few times. It's basically a logistical nightmare sometimes, but of course you love it. It's a great place to play. Great answer.
I was going to say, Fernando is my neighbor. We're like we live 20 minutes apart from each other, like my house in Portugal. So it's a beautiful.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What's the name of the place called again?
Alcobaça.
That's it. Yes, with the big
convent
right in the center. Yeah. Stunningly beautiful place.
I got one last question for you, and that is perhaps, I mean, I'm not going to call it the elephant in the room, because I am the elephant in the room, but it's a question that it's in the back of my mind, and that is about your collaboration with Ed Sheeran. When will there be some...
Don't worry, everybody does it. They always like shy away until the last question, as if it's like
I have
secret.
I have to ask, like, is there anything that you can share in terms of a timeline or anything at all? Anything?
No. Well, yeah, I can. Yeah. Well, it's no secret now. Okay, well, the timeline for this year is obviously live album comes out on Friday. We're going to be in the studio up until probably mid-September doing the new album, with a smattering of festivals over the summer. The Ed song, it's a charity single, because we thought that was the best way to represent everything. And he's got a great charity, and we've got a really great charity. I can't say anything more than that, because there's a lot of fingers and pies and cogs to turn and stuff like that to make all this a viable because you imagine Ed Sheeran is like one of the biggest artists in the world, like huge. You know, I'm busy. He's fucking catastrophically busy. Henceforth, why it took 2 years for this thing to actually come to fruition. And when it did, bless him, he turned up at my studio on his own. No press, no bouncers, just him and his wife's car, guitar slung over his shoulder, Cradle of Filth hoodie on. Brilliant. Did all his parts, acoustic, singing. And then we went for a pint. It was really good collaboration. The song's great. People say, what does it sound like? Well, it sounds like Ed Sheeran meets Cradle of Filth. It's, you know, kind of in the title. It's a metal song. It's got acoustic on, but it's a metal song. We even snuck a blast beat into it for the radio listeners. So yeah, it's going to have a big push behind it. We're just about to deliver it. In fact, tomorrow and Friday, I've got off from interviews because I'm at the studio and we're beginning the mix of the song. We've got to get it perfect, obviously, because it then goes to his manager. And I think it's a real big, you know, people say, oh, it's a risk for you because, you know, it's going to damage your reputation. I'm like, what fucking reputation? And we want it damaged because, you know, I love that juxtaposition. Everybody says, why do you keep doing stuff with weird people? So like Bring Me the Horizon, Twisted. It's because it's, what would be the point of doing something with George? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to do, and George has mentioned it, Corpse Grinder, about doing something together, but it's very similar. I mean, I can do what George does, not as good, but I could, but I can't do what Ed does. And it's that marriage of extremes that I find exciting because it's just so weird. People go, what the fuck? How's that ever going to work? It's the sort of thing they dream of. It'd be like an AI generated idea. And we just wanted to put it into practice. And if it's going to be for charity and it's going to be for something that benefits mental health and metal, so you can work it out. I think it's going to be a really good thing. The song is really good. It's not a comedy single. It's a very serious track. Lyricism is very serious. Yeah, I'm really pleased about it. I'm pleased it actually came to fruition. And if it gets a few people into metal because of it, then, you know, it's a good thing. Charity notwithstanding. But what I was saying, yeah, if it looked bad for us, can you imagine what it must be for his manager sitting there going, oh, for fuck's sake, what's he done now? I mean, this is if he only has to look online, he goes, fuck, this is a band that had Jesus. They got arrested in the Vatican. They had Jesus as a cunt. How's this going to look on his resume? You know, American Midwest are going to be wetting themselves. So I think, you know, I'd say the person who made the boldest move here would be Ed himself, because he doesn't need this. I mean, we don't need it either. We'll say one thing we also were very expressive. We want to do it for charity, so people don't think we're just trying to egg the pudding and make a load of money off the back of it. We wanted to put it to good use. But yeah, we admit it is a strange juxtaposition, a strange marriage of opposites. And for that, I think it piques people's interest. And I know people are they probably hate it when they hear it, but a lot of people are like, oh, I can't wait to hear it. I'm so curious about what it will sound like, which can only be a good thing.
I'm on that boat. I'm dying to hear what this is going to sound like. And I really appreciate your way of thinking in terms of doing something outside the box and different versus just going with the safe route. I mean, what's the fun in that? You want to, yeah, you got to try things new. That's what keeps the spark going, and that's what keeps the motivation moving.
Well, I think metal in general is quite, I mean, there's two different schools of thought on the subject. You've got the blabbermouth crowd who hate everything. You could have Lamb of God and you could have Devil Driver. They're not 2 million miles away from it. I'm just using an example. I don't mean ill of either of them. They're not 1 million miles away. Let's say Lamb of God and Arch Enemy. Not 1 million miles away. To the untrained ear, as in the guy that listens to the top 40 pop, we listen to him and go, yeah, it's the same band. Perhaps. I'm saying you're not 1 million miles away, but on Blabbermouth, you could like one, oh, I fucking hate this band, I wish they'd die. It's one or the other with metal. There's no middle ground. You love or you hate. And there's a lot of backstabbing and this band shit, oh my God, this is shit. More so than any other genre I've ever been witness to. And my dad was a fucking record collector for the majority of my life. And so I'm quite aware of how people react to different kinds of music. But that being said, the metal crowd is also the most passionate and are really into supporting the bands they like, which is a great thing. It's just the moaning that needs to be ironed out from time to time. And again, yeah, Cradle have always been at the sort of forefront of the, you know, love us or hate us mentality. And I'm sure this single will prove decisive in that respect as well.
Well, on that note, Danny, I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know you're super busy. So thank you for coming on the channel again, talking about the live record, talking about Ed Sheeran, talking about everything that is Cradle of Filth. I'm looking forward to the new album, to this song, and obviously seeing you guys on the road again playing in Toronto.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. Take care. All the best.
Yeah. Okay. Cheerio. Obrigado.